Hey guys, Will Terry here, and today I'm going to do a video called 3 Lies I Told Myself as an Artist. Before I get going, you can always contact me on Facebook or Twitter. I'm Will Terry 333. I've got all my contact information down here, and you can check us out on svslearn.com. Okay, so the first lie that I told myself as an artist is that I'll never be good enough because I'm not good now. The second one is being bad at drawing is part of my style. And the third one is I don't need to keep improving. And I'm going to hit each one of those as we kind of go along here. So the first one is one that I think a lot of us have told ourselves is that, I'm not good enough now. There's so many people that are so much better than me. Who am I kidding? And then coupled with that, you hear that it's almost impossible to make it in the arts, and I think a lot of us quit before we even really get going or really try. I remember when I was in junior high and high school, there was a guy that was always better than me, and we were always in the same art classes, and he was 2 or 3 times better, and I just felt like if he was that good, there was no chance for me to make it in art. And that was just a complete fallacy, because obviously when you're a kid and when you're growing up, it's all based on who spent more time doing it. And even as if you're entering this as an adult, I get a lot of questions on my blog and on my Facebook and Messenger and stuff about I'm in my 50s or I'm in my 40s or 60s, and who am I kidding? Is it too late for me? I think for different people it takes different amounts of time, but I've known people that have made huge leaps and bounds in as little as 4 or 5 years, to where they've gone from being really not very professional at all to extremely professional in about 4 or 5 years. For me, it took a lot longer. I'd say it took me 15 or 20 years to get there, and that brings us to the second question, and the second lie. And that is the lie that I told myself is being bad at drawing is part of my style. And one of the things that happened to me along the way is I kind of started to understand design and design principles, and I really got heavily into designing my illustrations, but I didn't really have the good raw drawing skills. And so the problem with that was that I could craft a decent looking picture, and I could use color, and I could use shapes and things like that to make a compelling image, even an image that would communicate. But when you looked at the raw drawing, there were a lot of problems with it. So what I wanted to do is actually show you this image here from my very first children's book published by Albert Whitman. And I want to show you some of the things that I knew were wrong, but I had told myself and convinced myself that it was part of my style, that if I learned how to draw good, if I learned how to draw better, that I would actually ruin my chances as an illustrator, because I would learn how to draw like everyone else somehow, and I would lack that unique style in my art. And that's a really convenient thing to say to yourself, right? That's a really convenient lie. Well, if I look at this image right here, there's definitely some drawing problems. So I'm just going to reduce the layer down. And these are things that we do in our classes at SVS Learn, which is do drawovers of other people's work when we have live classes or critiques and things like that. And we show people like where they've gone wrong. Well, I'm going to show myself here where I went wrong. And if I take this little lizard character right here, you can see that there's 2 eyes on the same side of the head. If you can't see that, go look at a Picasso drawing, because that's basically what I've got going on here, and that was not intentional. So if I just draw this basic shape of this head, and then this head kind of has it's not symmetrical, it's kind of pointy on one side. I'm just going to move that out over here and draw next to it, and then just kind of say, where's my center line? And this is something that I just didn't know how to do back then. And then where's my eye line? And the eye line is going to go around. It's going to be an ellipse that actually completes like that. And if I have an eye over here on this side right here, The other side, that eye is going to have to tuck behind the head and do something like this right here. And that's where you can see I just didn't have that ability right here, and I'm drawing that whole eye on the same side of the head. And then from there, little things like putting the helmet on that head. And I've got this kind of a thing where it dips down here and then tucks around the eye like that. I just didn't understand how to construct that sort of a thing. And that comes through a lot of practice. It also comes through good instruction on how to actually construct and to draw through and to see things. This horn on that side. How do you find the horn on the other side? This line that kind of comes over here. That horn is probably going to attach somewhere there, and it's just going to peek out, but it's not going to be. You won't see the whole thing. And if you go back in and erase that just a little bit and lighten that up, you can kind of clean up your lines. But the top of the helmet might be somewhere like that. And then the mouth can kind of come down here like this, and we're gonna lose it on the other side of the face. And then we've got these little things in here. So if I take and put that back on top of that head there, that's really the head that I wish I could have drawn. But I told myself that, hey, that no one else draws like me. The lies we tell ourselves, right? And then if I go ahead and draw on this one, let me get a new layer here. And on this one, this little tarantula here, Tex, the tarantula, what you'll notice is all the eyes are basically circles, but the problem is that they're supposed to go around the head, and they don't. And the reason for that is, if you've got let's just draw it right here. If you've got a head and you've got a bunch of eyeballs, as those eyeballs go around the head, they're going to have to take a slighter and slighter profile, right? Or they're going to turn into ellipses. They're going to elongate. And they're actually going to be a little bit bigger in the middle. And they're going to do something more like that, so they actually tuck and go around that head. And that's what I didn't understand how to do. So this one should actually look more like this, where you have maybe these eyeballs are circles, and then these start to turn into ellipses, and then maybe the head tucks, and again you get that eye coming on the other side of the head, and it'll just be more believable. The same thing with this hand. I've got the bowl kind of coming up, and it cuts right like that on the hand, and really there should be kind of a mitt there, where this hand kind of has a thickness, and it can actually hold on to that bowl, where that bowl kind of tucks up, and we know that it keeps going up through there, but there's actually a thickness to that hand, where the way that I drew it, it just didn't have that at all. Okay, so that's really the second thing, is that I thought that bad drawing was part of my style. The third lie is really part of the second, which is that I don't need to keep improving. And I would say I probably cut 10 years off of my improvement as an artist, because I felt like I had arrived. I had gotten to a point where I was competent enough. I was getting praise. I was getting a lot of attention. I was getting assignments, and I thought, well, then I don't need to work any harder. And then an interesting thing happened, is that globalization occurred through the internet, and instead of being in competition with people here in the U.S. And people that had means to advertise in source books, all of a sudden it became really cheap to advertise, and now I found myself in competition with people all over the world. That didn't happen overnight. Essentially it did, but it happened so gradually that all of a sudden I stopped getting assignments as much. I stopped getting asked to do as much. And I thought, well, it's the economy, it's something else. It couldn't be that I've become lazy, that I have stopped learning, and that I've stopped improving. And then I started to see what editors and what publishers were publishing, and it was like this amazing art, like the art ship left without me. Like the Like all the really good artists were on this other plane, and I was stuck down here in the lowlands, thinking that I was just fine, but because I wasn't improving, I wasn't part of that group. And I had to work really hard to get back into that group again. On my last blog, I mentioned the ones where I'm talking about, can a guy get his children's book published? That I was up for a big job. I ended up getting that job. It's a big publishing job, and so I know that I wouldn't have gotten that job with Random House if I had if I was doing the same work that I was 10 years ago, if I was at the same level. And I really had to dig deep and humble myself and ask for critiques, ask for help from professionals, fellow professionals, and that's hard to do, especially when you get to a level where you are a professional. Asking for help, really, you're basically in your mind, you're saying, well, now you're up here and I'm down here asking for help. I think we really shouldn't do that as artists. We should really look at it in the terms of that even if you're a professional, you need feedback, you need criticism. And one of the analogies I love to use with that is, think of the best tennis players, and the best tennis players all have coaches. They're the best in the world, and yet they still have a coach. They're the expert. There's nobody better than them. They still want a fresh set of eyes looking at what they're doing and saying, I think if you did this, you could do better. I think if you do that, you would win more. And I think we're no different. No matter what level you're at, you need some help. That's what I have for this video. And again, if you like what you saw, subscribe, and I'll see you on my next video.